So basically, what I'm talking about, the TLDR is an attempt by centrists to astroturf the Democratic Party and bring us back to neoliberalism.
Ooh, tell me.
Like, and that's, Biden didn't move that far away from neoliberalism. He's still fully neoliberal, but like he did some kind of, spending programs. Lena Khan was cracking down on some businesses, tech companies, but like these people that are trying to do this, they're like, Biden is an extreme leftist. Okay,
Right.
They're trying to bring us back to Bill Clinton politics. So it's this thing called the abundance agenda. Ezra Klein released a book called Abundance, and I think the book is sort of a separate thing, right? Like he is putting out a sort of like liberal pop policy book, kind of like Malcolm Gladwell. But that's not really the scary part.
Policy?
Pop policy, like a book that is meant for a non-policy audience. And I'm sure his book is just fine. I'm sure the policies in his book, like some of them are sensible. Some of them I would be like, you're kind of focusing on the wrong issue. But there's nothing extremely objectionable in the policy, even though I think, people could make some very thoughtful critiques of it. However, there's a group of think tanks that are all like very kind of disturbing think tanks, like the Niskanen Center, who is named after an advisor to Ronald Reagan, if that gives you any idea.
It's amazing to fawn over the advisor of Ronald Reagan.
Yeah. Basically like a couple Koch network orgs, like an effective altruist, philanthropy, like basically they have announced like, hey, we're all working together to like promote this abundance agenda opportunity to take over the Democratic Party. And they're having like conferences about it. And, it's just,
Jesus,
it's very disturbing because it's like, okay, there will be, like the abundance agenda, it's largely about climate change, but you look and see it's being, like the conference is being funded by like a former Enron
DuPont
executive.
Okay. Oh God.
Worse. Open Philanthropy is an effective altruist organization. Their former CEO, I guess, was close to like Sam Bankman-Fried. It has ties to AI. And basically like the kind of like short version of this is this abundance agenda stuff promotes the idea that we could we can achieve, enough for everybody through deregulation, just by getting rid of some annoying laws, permit processes, bad zoning. And like, in some cases that's true. There are some regulations that are good and there are some that are bad. And ideally we could assess what a regulation is doing and then decide if it makes sense to change it. But I think this is
so it's ultimately very like laissez-faire free market capitalism, as if we even lived in that world anymore, Kate. Like that's the crazy part about this is like you realize we are in a time of like monopolistic giants, like none of this. But maybe that's part of it. But it's just like if we only get back to like, true capitalism and we kind of agree with some of the regulations that, I don't know, Lee Zeldin at the EPA is doing away with.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's so sick. But I'm not an Ezra Klein follower, but I know people who do listen to his podcast, not naming names, you know who you are. No, but like they like him. Generally, he seems pretty okay. But it's just annoying that you're like, okay, so you're just doing like, what, like Curtis Yarvin with like a light touch, like what is this? Like without the fascism and without the misogyny?
Yeah, that's exactly right. What you said. There were two things that you said that I was just like, wow, that is right on the money. One, you were talking about monopoly as well. Some of the biggest critics of the abundance agenda have been anti-monopolists, like Zephyr Teachout. And, a big thing that I wouldn't necessarily consider myself like an anti-monopolist. I'm more of a democratic socialist, but, I think while we have capitalism, monopolies can really make things not work. And, a point that
Yeah.
people have made is like, like the consolidation of home builders is a big thing that is making housing expensive. In healthcare, like the fact that, United Healthcare like owns so much of it, like is making stuff more expensive. And the abundance agenda, like they specifically do not want to deal with the monopoly stuff. And then when it comes to like, why, like how come like anti-monopoly stuff isn't a really big part of this? It's because it is exactly what you said. It's because it has millions of dollars of tech money. Like I think that open philanthropy, like coinciding with this book, they gave like $120 million grant to an abundance project. And because these tech companies, like the dudes that are funding it, like they're pro monopoly. Like in my opinion, the reason they're doing this is because they don't like Lena Khan.
Totally. Oh my God. We could talk for so long about this, but this is deeply obnoxious. I'm just reading a little review of it. Like, that too many administrative burdens placed on construction. Like, oh God, yeah, that's the problem. That is the problem. Is there's too much too many things up to code. Not the fact that the problem with construction is like, I don't know, people can't afford to live inside the constructions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like abundance for whom is always this whole thing. And I just wish like you just pick a fucking random word, hang out in Silicon Valley long enough and just meet the right people and you get $125 million.
Yeah, no, it's like abundance is the new disrupt, which was the new innovation. It's so obnoxious. And I think, I know we're going to get into this in a minute, but I think that the reason for like, why now? Like, why are they going, so hard on this abundance stuff at this moment? And by they, I mean like a network of think tanks with a lot of connections to the tech industry. Is because there is kind of the obvious answer to our issues with, Trump, like within the Democratic Party, would be to have, a populist vision. Like that's why you see, thousands and thousands of people turning up at Bernie and AOC rallies, even like, like 65-year-old women who may have not liked Bernie at all. They're just like, you know what? If you're willing to fight Trump, lower the cost of living, defend government while Elon is taking his weird little chainsaw to it, I am with you. We were in this together. And these guys are like, no. What if we do liberal DOGE or whatever? And just
yes, that's exactly what it is.
And one last point I just want to make about this is it like not everything that they are saying is bad. Like, for example, their plan for housing it's all around upzoning. And there are many areas where changing the zoning would be marginally helpful, but it's probably like maybe fifth or sixth on the list. Like we're not talking about social housing, we're not talking about protecting tenants, and this neoliberal free market approach, it's like, okay, we change the zoning, that lowers the prices 1 to 2% in places where it's cheap enough to build and the interest rates are low, and the other conditions that have to be met for construction to occur. Usually it's like, okay, then what next? After 1% isn't enough, then we have to attack unions, then we have to attack the ADA.
Yeah dude, it is liberal DOGE. Lastly, it just also abundance agenda is giving opportunity economy.
Yeah, it is.
and we remember that was Kamala's like, I'm gonna skirt around just, talking about rampant inequality or working class people and just call it the opportunity economy, which speaks to all the upwardly mobile people out there who are nobody.
Yeah. And Kamala ran on a lot of this stuff, and not all of it is bad. I mean, like there are situations where, again, we should change the zoning. There's permit processes that could be expedited and stuff, and that's not bad stuff. But it's we have to realize no one knows or cares that she ran on this stuff except for like a few very online centrist policy nerds. It wasn't a hit. Like people are not going to be like, they weren't like rushing out to vote for Kamala because she was going to give grants to municipalities that were willing to rezone,
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do